beef in order to make hamburgers for dinner, and she smiled at me with that cute, adorable smile I've grown to know and love, and then headed out. After climbing Burger King's corporate ladder, I had finally attained the position of regional financial manager for the entire state. I was working on some budget information, assessing the costs of all the franchises across the state. It was a long and arduous process, but I was getting just above 6 figures for it, so I wasn't complaining. And after each report was fully completed and evaluated, I moved the files to a USB drive so I could upload them to a computer for a corporate meeting the next day. To my horror, with only 3 reports left to finish,
Okay.
the computer crashed. If I didn't finish these reports, I would surely lose my job. I called my wife, asking if she had another computer or something I could use, but she didn't answer. I rummaged through the house to find something to finish these reports with, to no avail. Desperate times call for desperate measures, so I took the daring risk of approaching the basement. The handle was unusually cold, and the door was locked. Frustrated and defeated, I slumped to the couch in a depression. That is,
Cross
until I
parent, so you can
realized
see things below it. Select the
there was
head
a specific
or move
flower
things around
pot
very
that my wife
on it.
always guarded with her
So
life.
I suddenly want.
On a hunch, I went to it
Now
and
you need
found
to
the
select
key
2
at the bottom of the
vertices.
pot.
Hold
Under
down
the
Control,
dirt. As soon as I opened
click,
the door, a
and you'll create
rancid
another
and
triangle.
tangible odor
And this is the
attacked
quickest
me like
way
a
to keep.
falling wall
That's what
from
it
a
is.
decrepit building. The entire basement looked as if it was wasting away, a clear contrast to the rest of the house. The heavy layers of dust upon every surface suggested that the basement hadn't been accessed in years. Using my cell phone as a flashlight, I guided myself down the stairs and flicked the light switch. Surprisingly, the bulb still worked. The walls looked molded. The wood was breaking down, the stench was putrid, and the entire place was in disarray. I encountered a strong sense of dysphoria after setting foot in the room, so I quickly searched for some old computer with the intent of running upstairs as quickly as possible. To my luck and astonishment, there was an old laptop and charger in the corner, hidden under some boxes and books. Oddly enough, one of the boxes was one which she brought down after I had first moved in. I hadn't seen some of the stuff in such a long time. Ignoring the nostalgia, I seized the computer and charger and raced up to the master bedroom. After giving the laptop a few minutes of power, I booted it up. It ran on Windows XP and was quite the technological dinosaur compared to the modern equipment. But it had Microsoft Office, so it was acceptable. As soon as Windows finished booting up, a system message appeared on the screen notifying me that new sources had been added to the tagged video cache, and if I'd like to check it. I had never seen a system message like this before. I knew that snooping is generally taboo, but curiosity overcame me. I was taken to a hidden file that required a password to access it. Rolling my eyes, I moved my cursor to X out of the program when suddenly, something typed the password in for me. A bit frightened at this point, I was sucked into the screen. There were 4 videos, entitled him.avi, 1.avi, 2.avi, and y.avi. All 4 thumbnails were pure black. Curious, I clicked on the file entitled him.avi. I should never have done that. The video was extremely shaky and grainy. I could barely make out the figure of a man tied to a chair with some sort of a metallic rope. A woman moving as if she was floating on air, not moving a single bone in her body, but yet being able to slowly hover around the room came into the picture. To my horror, she brought out a knife and started slowly cutting the man. The man screamed in brutal pain as the woman slowly cut him to pieces. Blood poured from his mouth and all of his lacerations as the woman dug the knife in deeper. His clothing was slowly stripped from his body, and after each article was removed, she used a lighter to set all of the newly exposed hairs on fire. Covered in horrific burns and terrifying cuts, the man had stopped screaming and was now simply bawling. He occasionally screamed out, "Why?" For that was all he could muster. Each time he did, the woman stabbed him again. She began laughing as the man vomited blood and entrails. She picked up the small, solid pieces of the vomit with the knife and slowly licked the blade clean. giggling like a schoolgirl. She then proceeded to gouge out the man's left eye while he was still alive. I couldn't watch anymore, so I closed the video. Shaken and horrified, I clicked on one.avi. I had to know what was going on. This time it was a young boy, about 8 years old, bound into the chair. He looked confused and innocent. I shook my head and fell into tears. Such a thing was not about to happen to this boy. The video was of the same quality as the last one. However, the background was much brighter. They seemed to be in an abandoned household, falling apart and in ruin. The woman floated over to the boy much like she did in the last video and kissed him gently on the cheek. She slowly brought the heat lamps, the source of brightness mentioned before, over to the boy one by one until the entire video was white. After a while, the camera dimmed so that the boy could be seen again. The innocent look once seen in the beginning of the video turned into one of excruciating pain. The heat lamp slowly began burning his clothes and skin. Bubbles and blisters began rapidly forming on his skin as he too screamed in pain. As the man in the last video, he screamed "why" and was punished each time by being brutally slashed with a belt studded with pieces of what appeared to be broken glass. The blisters began to boil as the child was roasted alive. Eventually, the
I can see how this could take a while.
Seizures.
What?
At this point,
We're gonna do it. We're gonna do it right.
The last video could be heard again, this time even louder.
So far, it's looking pretty good.
I deserved this. Into the child's melting torso as he screamed. Eventually, the boy stopped moving. I closed out.
Not bad.
Point. I needed to see the next one. I had to witness this. This had to be stopped. With such a determination, I clicked on 2.avi. This time, there was no one strapped to the chair. Instead, an infant car seat was in the chair with what appeared to be a newborn infant tightly strapped inside. Like the previous videos, a woman floated over to the child. She rubbed its head and briefly went off camera. She came back with a syringe and violently stuck it into the child's body, injecting a blue liquid into the child. Unique to the collection, the video began fast-forwarding. At first, the infant seemed normal, happy, smiling, and carefree. After the fast-forwarding progressed, the child grew more and more uncomfortable. It started coughing and wheezing. It began puking up white liquid and began crying almost if it too were saying why. A dark bottle was briefly placed in front of the camera, and the words "tasty juice" were written upon it. The bottle was turned over to reveal its content. A blue liquid that sizzled when it reached the ground. Blood-curdling screams erupted from the baby as it fell into more and more of an unstable condition. As the shrieking child grew closer to death, the same giggling in the previous videos presented itself, but this time it was much louder than before. Determined to make it end, I fixated my eyes upon the screen. Despite how much they were tugging me to look away, the woman was screaming in laughter, louder than the baby was at this point. She floated over to the child again, unstrapped it, grabbed it by its legs, and to my utter shock, swung it head first as hard as she could at the wall. The video went black. Shaking, I forced myself to click on y.avi. Before the video played, I noticed that this file was modified within the last hour. Almost blinded by fear, I swallowed my apprehension and opened my eyes. This time, there was just the woman. No other person was present. She was facing away from the camera and was speaking in a demonic tone. I couldn't recall exactly, but here's what she said.
Hello. Clearly by now, you know that I'm not the person you thought I was. I'm a sick and twisted woman. I love this. It makes me so happy to see somebody die, especially at my hand. I know you're watching this, and I know you're terrified. The ghosts of those I've killed are swarming around you right now, telling you to pull away from the screen, to save yourself. Yet, you still sit there and watch, waiting for some happy ending or reasonable explanation as to the events you have just witnessed. There are no special effects here. What you saw was real. I love watching this footage, even so much as to pleasure myself to it. But I had to hide it. You couldn't know. Your lonely piece of shit brain would tell you to turn me in. You were so desperate for love. You fell in love with a serial killer.
The woman turned around instantly, and I recognized the face of my wife. I couldn't even feel emotion at this point. I didn't know what to think. My memory had fallen into pieces. I didn't know where I was, or who I had been, or what I was about to go through. Everything in my life died as I saw the once happy and bubbly eyes that I once saw in my wife become vapid and emotionless. A smile crept across her face, one that made me quiver in fear upon the sight of it. This wasn't possession. This wasn't mental illness. This was just evil. So evil.
It's quite a shame. I really loved you. We had this passion. Oh, you remember the giggle?
No.
I made you fall in love with me. I tricked you. I lied to you. And want to know the best part? I knew you would find out. I couldn't keep a secret forever. Eventually, you'd find the key to the basement. Eventually, the stench would become too strong. Eventually, the decaying foundation would begin to topple the house. And eventually, you'd finally realize that my children never had leukemia, and my husband never left. I killed them. And they're closer than you think. Why do you think the basement smells so bad? You'd be surprised how easy it is to cement human remains into the floor. You stepped on my dead children and husband. Feel proud of yourself? I know you're watching this. I just made this video. I know what you've done.
I began shaking my head, fearing what I knew I was about to hear. A cold sweat crept upon me as I suddenly felt two eyes bore into the back of my head. I was paralyzed.
Those noises you're hearing aren't the pipes. Turn around.
I slowly turned and froze as I met the psychotic eyes of my wife. She began to giggle. I don't know what happened after that. I've been told by the police that people heard screaming coming from my house during my attempted murder, and they called the police. I was told by physicians that I was violated with a sharp end of a screwdriver, and that she placed a block of hot ice on my lap. I was tied to a chair, the same one they used in previous videos. It was videotaped. All the videos are now in police custody, and I refuse to see mine. My wife was given the death penalty. I was present at the execution. Her last words to me were to tell me that she would never leave me. She would always know where I was, that she would never give up on my murder, and that she never left a job unfinished. She was sure to tell me that I would see her again, that she'd send another minion to finish the job. She finished by telling me that I would never be safe. Ever. She survived the first 3 attempts at lethal injection, but died on the 4th. She was smiling, and she giggled like a little schoolgirl right before the end. I've been through extensive therapy, and years later, I've been able to overcome the horrific trauma I saw and experienced. I still make 6 figures a year. I've made a good network of friends. My life's been incredible. I feel accomplished and successful, something I have never felt before. I'm now confident, so confident. In fact, I'm finally going on a date tonight with a girl. man. She's cute, too. With this long, dark, flowing hair. And vibrant green eyes.
I'm just looking to get it as close
I'm
to the
not a
ground
dog
as
person.
possible.
Now, that hasn't always been the case,
I have
though.
not seen
As
this
a matter of
man.
fact, I used to love them. I grew up telling everyone that I'd be a veterinarian one day. Had that been the case, I'd like to think I wouldn't be in the position I'm in now. I'm a nervous wreck. As
Yeah,
long as I
this
can
part might
remember, I
actually be
suffered from
one of the more
constant
difficult
paranoia.
parts
If you
of
asked my
the nav
parents,
mesh,
they'd tell you
mostly
an entirely different
because
story.
it's
But
on a
according to them, I
very
was calm, cool, and
inclined
collected as a
terrain.
child. They said it wasn't until I was around 12 when the way I carried myself drastically changed. And I don't remember much from back then. However, there was a particular scene from my childhood that I'll never be able to push out of my mind. Someone that shadowed me for the rest of my life. January 1st, 1999. Remember how I said I wasn't a dog person? Well, there's a reason for that. See, as I said, I told my parents that I wanted to be a veterinarian. They supported me. They wanted me to be successful. I take for granted how much they cared for me. They bought me books on animal anatomy. They took me to zoos. They brought me various VHS documentaries on animals. They tried their best to raise me into the adult that I wanted to be. The adult that my parents could be proud of. My birthday was in November. I was turning 12. My previous attempts of asking my parents for a pet had always ended in an uneventful manner. They would always say that I wasn't old enough, that I wasn't prepared for the responsibility of looking after a living, breathing animal. I just had to prove them wrong. And this year, I was fucking 12. I'd been reading up on all those animal books, and this year I knew I was ready. Once again, I told my parents that I wanted an animal this year. Their reaction was different this time. My father gave me a single maybe. You know that? I knew what I'd be getting for my birthday. It was no surprise that I woke up the day of my birthday to a small puppy licking my face. I was thrilled. There my parents were standing at my bedroom door smiling warmly. They wished me a happy birthday. Gave me a speech about how I needed to treat the dog the way I would any other living being. They provided me with dog food bowls and a leash. And in that moment, I was the happiest I'd ever been in my life. The dog is my best friend. The time I spent with the dog was great. I was an only child, homeschooled. I was never really able to have interactions with people my age, not that I'd have a problem with doing so. My dog, who I'd named Theo, had steadily grown a bond with me over the course of a month. We bonded the way any other kid would over his dog. We went on walks, we played together, I bathed him, fed him, and overall tried to raise him the best I could, as my parents had done for me. Needless to say, my parents were impressed. Their opinion of me, however, soon changed. It was January 1st, beginning of a new year, and a new beginning for me. I woke up at around 10 a.m., a late start for me. I never actually made it to midnight on New Year's before. I felt like absolute shit. I was greeted in the kitchen by my mother, who had provided a delicious breakfast. My mother's cooking was the stuff of legend. As I sat at the dinner table to eat my breakfast, Theo greeted me from under the table and sat down at my feet. I slipped him a piece of bacon. He was delighted. My breakfast was cut short. One of my chores was to get the mail every day. As soon as I heard the familiar sound of the mail truck, I shot up from my chair. One of my animal documentaries taught me about Ivan Pavlov and his dogs. Funny how I didn't know I was being conditioned to react a certain way to the sound of that truck. I was still tired from last night. I fumbled towards the front door. I wasn't paying much attention, and as soon as I opened the door, Theo took off as fast as he could. Couldn't process what just happened. He had never done that before. I collected my thoughts and decided to go after him. I grabbed my jacket from the coat rack and ran outside. As soon as I stepped foot on my porch, I froze. Theo hadn't gotten far. He hadn't even left the front yard. The yard's exit was blocked by a man. That was the first time I saw him. The man looked straight at me. He didn't blink. I didn't know what to do or how to feel. At first I was grateful. He was the only thing standing between Theo and the rest of the world. He said nothing. Theo was looking up at him. He wagged his tail, he panted. It was as if the man didn't notice the dog was there, he just kept staring. I wanted to say something, I wanted to thank him. The way he looked at me was as if he was expecting me to say something, and I couldn't bring myself to. Without averting his gaze, he kneeled down and picked up Theo by the scruff of his neck. Theo whined.
Name.
I wanted to tell him to put
My
the
auto
dog down,
claims
but I couldn't.
closed.
Simply couldn't think of
Let's take a look.
appropriate words. My mind was all in jumbles. I couldn't move. I couldn't think straight. All I could do was watch. A man reached into his pocket. He pulled out a knife. And he cut the dog's throat in one quick motion. Blood spilled onto the snow-covered ground. He held the dog in the air for a few seconds, letting Theo's blood form a puddle underneath him. The man then simply let go. Theo fell with a light crunch into the reddened snow. Again, the man's gaze didn't leave me. He dropped the knife to the ground and merely walked away.
Fine then.
It was
Anyways.
until I was completely out of sight when I could move again. Theo,
Yeah, we're
grabbed
making
him
our
by
way
the
down.
stood
I
over him.
really
shed a
do
single tear.
like it so far.
My mother
I
met
had
me in
one
the house
there.
wondering
Lower it a
why, given
little
the meal was
bit.
taking so long. I didn't blame her for screaming. She saw me standing over the mangled corpse of Theo, knife on the ground. It didn't take a genius to put two and two together. The scene described itself.
Oh yeah, this needs to be
In
like...
the following months, my parents had forced me into seeing a psychiatrist. When asked why I killed Theo, I tried to tell him that it wasn't me. I tried my best to tell him about the man. To tell him. I could tell he wasn't buying it. All right, said the therapist with a smug tone. Tell me what this man looked like. That's when I realized I couldn't describe him. Not that I didn't remember his face, it's just... He was so generic. I wouldn't be able to describe him without describing millions of other people in the world. His face was forgettable. I know I stared at the man for a good 5 minutes. One would assume I'd be able to remember the face of a man who killed my dog without breaking eye contact with
Freaking
me.
Tori.
It was like I knew what he looked like, but my brain couldn't translate his appearance into words. I didn't answer the therapist's questions. I simply slumped in my chair. Throughout my entire life, the man has popped up in multiple occasions. I may go further into detail in the future, but all I can say for now is that he definitely exists. It may seem crazy, but I know what I saw that day. I always see him, whether he's among a crowd while watching the news or in my dreams. He's real. And he's always watching. Although there's no internet access or even cell phone service in this tiny cabin where I sit typing, perched on a cliff high above the Pacific Ocean, still I write this blog, in the hopes that it might find some new civilization, long after mankind is gone, that this may be a testament to one man who found faith in religion after doubting for so long. You see, I was never a spiritual or superstitious man. I was a man of science, a student, a marine biologist before this. I never had what one would call faith in anything resembling religion. To me, it was all math, everything. The strange mutation of life was simply an exponential progression of evolution. But now, as I see the sacramental fires burning bright on the beach below me, and feel the awakening of the ancients echo in my sleep and dreams, now that I realize that man's time is over, and it is a new beginning for beings much greater and more powerful than our own, I offer up a poem, a sacrament, a narrative to the events that unfold before the Great Awakening. Let me start at the beginning. I was a doctoral student at the University of California, Santa Cruz, working on my PhD in marine biology. Mollusks were my specialty, specifically, as they are known by their common name, red abalone. Abalone are an edible type of sea snail, a marine mollusk. Single-shell gastropod found in coastal waters around the globe. Like all snails, they have a head with a mouth and a pair of eyes, and a foot, which they use to cling to rock formations while using their file-like tongue.
There we
to
go. That's
scrape
what I wanted
algae
to
matter
look
into their
at.
mouths. They also have an enlarged pair of tentacles. They are considered a delicacy.
Oh,
comparative
boy.
to
All right.
calamari. Red abalone,
From
the
bumper
largest
cover,
and most
bumper cover,
prized
bumper
of the
cover, bumper
species,
cover,
are found
bumper cover,
only
bumper
on the west
rivet,
coast of
retainer,
North America.
spoiler.
Red abalone
Spoiler.
are not endangered, but because of overfishing
Front
and
bumper
acidification
impact
of oceans,
absorber,
they have
grill
become rather
assembly,
scarce. That's why California put a ban on
headlamps,
commercial fishing of them
clean
in
and
the
adjust,
1990s.
apparently.
They can be harvested
Fog
for
lamp
personal use
assembly,
only
remove and
north of San
replace.
Francisco, April through November,
Clean and
with a
adjust
hiatus in
fog
July,
lamps,
and with a
cooling
limit of only
radiator.
3 a day and a total of 18 a year. Since I was writing my doctoral thesis
Combination
on
lamp,
haliotis
cooling fan
and
guard,
pheasants,
cooling
it was
fan
deemed
motor,
that
and
I should
shroud
spend the
assembly,
summer in a tiny
AC
fishing
refrigerant
village called
recovery.
Shelter Cove.
Oh yeah, my
There I would
condenser.
study, measure,
Ooh,
count,
that
and
means
map
I don't need
the
to
abalone
recharge
and
my
also
AC
report any suspicious
because
activity related to
when I
abalone
replace my
creatures to the
engine,
California
hold on.
Department of Fish and Wildlife.
Sorry, I completely forgot about my condenser. Okay, so when I replaced the engine in my car, I had to take out well, I had to obviously I had to take out the AC. Because when you take out the AC, you can get like you're able to remove the AC compressor, which is it's responsible for pushing your AC through to like your system and all that. But I never got around because it was like really cold out. I never got around to recharging my AC. Because you gotta like take all of the AC out and then put it back in when you're done. I just never got back around to putting the AC back in. So well, it was more like the deer hitting me last week. It completely ruined my condenser and a bunch of other stuff. And it's kind of the same procedure. In order to replace the condenser, you got to take out all the AC and put new AC back in. Well, my AC is already out, but they don't know that. So they're going to do it anyway. And replace the condenser and everything, and then recharge it for me. So that means I don't have to do it. Let's see. Fender panel. Front body radiator support. Makes sense. Disable and enable airbag system. Wow. Airbag impact sensor. Remove and install. It's weird. Anyways, front engine undercover, engine retainer, low note horn assembly, left front door assembly. Oh, they're replacing the door. Left front door shell, left front door outside, left front door repair panel, left front rear. What? Left front rear view mirror. Left front outer door molding. Paint. Obviously, there's a lot of paint. Corrosion protection, car cover. Pre-repair scan, post-repair scan. Well, it's a lot of good stuff. It's a lot of good stuff that's absolutely necessary. I really just wanted to see what all the details were. I was given a price by Progressive. Gotta pay $1,000 deductible, but it's gonna be a total of like $5,400 in damages repaired. So I mean, paying $1,000 for $5,400 in repairs. So I mean, I can complain that the deer hit me, but I can't complain that I'm only paying $1,000 out of $5,400. So that's good. Just gonna have to deal with that. All right. I just wanted to see what that was real quick. Because, like, I talked with Progressive and they said they, the claim was approved and everything and all that. But I didn't get any details, so I just wanted to look at the details. Anyways, back to what we were doing.
Small, medium teeth of the ratala. As her enthusiasm began to grow, I sensed a future marine biologist in the making, and grew to truly love her visits. I quickly settled into a routine of waking early and taking my kayak out to dive. Even though it was summer, the water was cold, averaging about 50 degrees, and I had to wear a full wetsuit with a hood and gloves. I would pull my hood over my head, pull down my half mask, put my regulator's mouthpiece into my lips, and slip into the murky waters to explore the underwater rock formations
annoying.
with my flashlight, looking for the domed brick red shells that are underwater homes of the abalone, who suction themselves to the craggy surfaces. I would count and measure them, and then return to my kayak to scrawl out my findings. It was peaceful work, but it could be dangerous.
Let's relax.
Every year, dozens of abalone divers wash up dead on the shores, smashed against the rock by the swell or sucked into dark ocean caves. In 2004, an abalone diver who ironically worked with the Recreational Fishing Alliance and was on a federal fishers management panel was attacked by a great white shark while diving not too far south from here, off the coast of Mendocino. When his friends first saw the huge cloud of blood in the water, they thought it was some kind of sick joke. They were gravely mistaken. His mauled and ravaged body washed up on shore a day later. In the evenings, I would type out my statistics on my laptop, their average depth and proximity to the shore, and in my free time, I would wander the desolate shoreline exploring the tide pools while I sipped a local microbrew and sampled some of the fine cannabis the hills to the east were famous for. I'd gaze up at the sky, streaked in pink and purple as the sun sank down into the ocean, watching pelicans beat their wings in unison as the high-pitched wails of young harbor seals echoed off the towering bluffs. I was happy. As happy as I'd ever been. By mid-third week, I had charted the entire shoreline for over half a mile. At the end of the first month, I had made enough inroads with the notoriously secretive locals to be invited to a party. It was a wild event held on a sprawling manor that sat on the grassy hillside with the ocean spread out below it. It was the last day of June. It would be a month-long hiatus for abalone harvesting all of July, so the abalone divers would be throwing a feast. There was abalone wontons, abalone salsa, 2 kinds of abalone sausage, but the most scrumptious was the abalone wrapped in dates, goat cheese, and bacon and deep fried. All of this, as well as the standard fare of salmon, halibut, cod, and oyster. Bottles of wine from nearby vineyards littered the tables, and ruddy-faced fishermen gathered around kegs of local microbrew. The sheriff was there in full uniform, and when someone passed him a joint, he puffed it and passed it on like everyone else. A week into July, I noticed a massive amount of abalone missing off the point of Dead Man's. Abalone concentrate where the current flow causes drift seaweed to accumulate. Because abalone expend a large amount of energy when moving, they tend to stay in one location. Last week, the point of Dead Man had been littered with abalone. Now, there wasn't a single one left. I shone my flashlight along the submerged rocks. Nothing. I reached my hand into a narrow crevice, felt around the deep fissure for the telltale feel of those thick shells. Cautious and aware that a swell could suck me into the narrow space, crush my bones, wedge me in, and trap me. Even if there wasn't a moratorium on abalone fishing, going on in absence of this size was unprecedented. This had to have been some kind of large-scale poaching. In San Francisco, in Chinatown, dried abalone sells as an aphrodisiac for $2,000 a pound. A haul this big could easily net over $500,000. First, I alerted the Fish and Game Department. Next, figuring that the poachers, after having exhausted the supply on that point, would move down to the Dead Man's Cove itself, and that they would most likely come in the early twilight hours. I decided to stake out Dead Man's Beach to see if I could catch the poachers if they returned. The only way accessible to Dead Man's Cove is over the ocean, so I hauled my kayak out of the boat launch, slipped it into the dark water, waves lapping at the concrete pier, jumped in, and paddled out. There was a full moon, but the fog was rolling in thick across the relatively calm water. I kayaked past the beach where a few pickup trucks were still parked. Surfers relaxing on the shore and having a few beers after a day of riding the waves, and made my way around the towering point on Deadman, carefully avoiding the crescent of jagged rocks that rose out of the black water and fog. Paddling into the small cave, I rode the surf up onto the beach. Pulling my kayak across the black pebbly sand of the cliff face, I found a small cave nothing more than a craggy wrinkle in the bluff, and tucked my kayak into it, camouflaging it in driftwood, dried seaweed, and a few handfuls of sand. With my kayak hidden, I hiked down the
What's
beach,
this one called again?
and behind a large wash.
Oh, the abalone thief.
I
Interesting.
set up my small.
I don't know if I've ever heard
one-person
this
tent.
one.
I hunkered down for the night, staying awake for a good while, but then drifting off to a light slumber, determined to sleep lightly and awaken as early as I could. In the middle of the night, I awoke to a garbled noise. I at first assumed it was the yapping of sea lions, but as sleep left me, I realized it was human voices. It sounded like they were singing or chanting. I poked my head out of my tent. The entire beach was now draped in a thick shroud of fog, but when I peered out into the darkness, I was startled to see a mass of orange flames flicking up into the night sky. It was a large bonfire, and silhouetted around appeared to be a circle of people. Was I dreaming? I blinked my eye and focused on the fire, and yes, around the fire was a ring of people in black hooded cloaks. They held hands and slowly circled around the flames, chanting with the fog swirling around them. On the outside of the circle were others, also in dark cloaks, remaining still as statues, holding torches. They couldn't see me, hidden in the fog behind the massive log, and I watched curiously. It was definitely strange, but I just assumed it was a bunch of teenagers getting weird, or maybe even a coven of old hippie Wiccans getting their witch on. Either wouldn't be unheard of in these parts. I watched the strange ritual for over an hour till they were done. Then they responsibly put out their fire, which impressed me, buried its smoldering remains in sand, and wandered up into the ravine where a trail took them up the cliffside. So there was a way to Dead Man's Cove besides the ocean. I would have to scope out that trail when I got a chance. Maybe the abalone thief used it to get to the beach. Since the strange cultists, or whatever they were, had not waded out into the ocean or given any sign of abalone poaching, I paid them no real mind. Live and let live, right? Just a bunch of kooks getting weird. I had often heard that Humboldt County was a weird place, and that southern Humboldt was even weirder. I waited all day on the beach for any signs of poachers eating trail mix and dried fruit, but saw nothing. When the sun set and the sky began to grow dark, I packed up my tent and went and retrieved my kayak. I had been on the beach for over 24 hours and had seen no sign of the abalone thief. I pushed my kayak out into the surf, jumped in, and paddled back around the point. That night, even though I was exhausted from my little expedition, I was restless and unable to sleep. Tossing, turning in my bed, I went outside onto the cliff's edge to smoke a joint and drink a beer to calm my nerves. A slight breeze stirred the leaves of the
looks good.
as it lined the cliff edge. The salty smell of the sea, heavy in the air. It was then that I noticed from up here I could just make out a fire burning on Dead Man's below me. Tiny silhouettes of circling acolytes around it. I could even make out the torchbearers that encircled the group. They were back, the local weirdos. Probably just a bunch of goth or metal kids who listened to too much Marilyn Manson. The beer and pot were doing their trick, and I yawned, feeling exhaustion take over. That night, I had the first of the dreams. I dreamt I was in the ocean, deep underwater beneath the waves. Examining abalone, I ran my fingers over their hard outer shells, imagining their Fimbrian head lobes, their colomellar muscles. It was breeding time, and I could see their respiratory apertures venting eggs and sperm into the ocean's water column. I had no scuba gear. I didn't need it. It felt as if I had some sort of gills, for I could feel the salty water swooshing in and out of me as it churned, cold and green. Full of fascination, I studied the formations of rock and shell as a hand, almost human, crept over the craggy shelf. It was covered in pale green scales, and the tips of the fingers ended in black claws. It reached out and took hold of the abalone red shell and slowly peeled it off the rock, the slime trail the sea snail used to locomote itself, leaving a viscous ooze stain. I gazed in wonder as a humanoid head then rose up over the rock ledge, a face with the features of a fish, gills. I stared on as the creature put the abalone to its mouth and with fanged teeth pulled the sea snail slowly out of its shell and began chomping on it, swallowing it in quick, eager gulps. When it was done, it extended a long, thin black tongue, forked like the tongue of a snake, and licked the empty shell clean. So this is the abalone thief, I thought to myself, with the calm and calculating mind of a scientist, without any fear whatsoever. Then I saw, out of the murky distance of the ocean floor, more.
Triangles
There were
and I'm going.
more of them.
So maybe if we've got a
hundreds of them,
few
maybe even
patches,
thousands
you
of
show
them. An army of
bar
these
is
scaled
off,
sea
otherwise you
creatures
can't
feeding
select
on
the
the
items in
abalone.
the world.
I realized they were
Click on my
gaining
banner. I don't have to
sustenance
delete it and re-put it
strengthen
down. I
themselves.
can just tap one
They were
twice to hide
preparing
it
for
on the
something.
keyboard.
This
And when you want
army
to
of creatures
re-show
was readying
items in
themselves for
this
the
cell,
coming of
you can
a
Alt and
being
1,
greater than
or
that
you
had
can
ever
just
roamed the
F5
earth.
and refresh
They
the entire
awaited
cell.
a great awakening, and in a massive epiphany, I realized the importance of their mission, and that I was needed. I must join them, lend my psychic support. And then I realized that the cult on the beach was doing just that, what their goal was. Then I looked down at my hands and realized that my hands, too, were webbed, covered in scales. I was one of them. I awoke, bathed in sweat, shivering, unable to dislodge the strange dream from my mind. The dream was bizarre, silly. Obviously, it had no bearing on reality. Sea creatures poaching the abalone, but something within me felt different. I felt very unscientific. For the first time in my life, I felt an inexplicable spirituality, a desire to worship a higher being, a higher power. I felt very, very scared, though I couldn't say why. The next day, I searched for the path that led to Dead Man's. I realized that from my cabin I could walk along the cliff edge, between the clumps of coyote bush and dune tansy, down the hill into a gully that eventually formed into a steep, rocky ravine. Following this ravine down into a small valley, I found the trail. Nothing more
Actually,
than a deer or elk path, really. On an impulse, I decided to stake it out that night to watch and see if that strange group appeared again, just to check them out for curiosity's sake and see what they were up to. If I could identify any of them, maybe I could question them about the abalone thief. See if they had any good intel on boats or strangers coming or going from the beach. That night, sure enough, as I crept down the ravine, I could see the fire burning on the beach below. I positioned myself off the trail and above the cove, just close enough to see the beach fairly well with my binoculars. I crouched down and put the binoculars to my eyes. I could see that they were holding hands around the fire again, slowly rotating, more likely chanting the strange mumbo-jumbo that I had heard last night. I tried to make out their faces to see if I could see anyone, but their hoods obscured them, and all I could see were dark shadows where their faces should be. I scanned the gathering with my binoculars and noticed something going on off to the side, some sort of commotion against the cliff wall. Two hooded figures were holding a struggling figure by its arms. I focused my binoculars, and what I saw made my mouth go dry and my gut clench. It was Susie. They were holding little Susie, and she was naked and struggling. This couldn't be. Then, as I watched helplessly above, they pulled her forward to the fire. It took 4 of those cloaked maniacs to hold the squirming girl down as another, this one's robes, a crimson red, raised what must have been a knife above her, for it glinted in the moonlight, long and pointed. I froze. What should I do? What could I do? There had to be at least a dozen of them down there. Then it all happened so quickly. The knife fell, and I thought I could hear that little voice I knew so well cry out in pain and go silent. The crimson-robed one hacked into her chest and pulled out a dark object I can only assume was her heart and brought it to his mouth. He then passed it on, little Susie's pale, naked body now limp and crumpled on the sand. I had to do something. I had to call the cops. I spun around and clawed myself up off the ravine, and as I did so, my foot slipped, and I sent a shower of pebbles and dirt down into the mist-covered gully. I froze, my mouth dust dry, clinging to the rock face. Had they noticed? With a pounding heart, I started back up. Once I got to the top, I sprinted over the bluffs to my Subaru, now out of breath and huffing. Fumbling with the keys, I started the engine and sped down the road. I squealed into the parking lot of the inn in the Lost Coast. I leapt out of my car with sweaty, shaking hands, dialing 911 on my iPhone. When I told the operator what had happened and where I was, she transferred me to the sheriff. "Calm down," he said, and explained to me again what happened. "I saw them kill her," I said. "Kill her and eat her heart." "Who?" "Susie Anderson." "Susie Anderson. Susie Anderson that lives on the corner of Toth and Steelhead with her mother Kathy?" "Yes, I'm sure it was her. On the beach at Dead Man's." "You say she's been murdered?" "Yes." "By a cult in hoods. On the beach?" "Yes! Fuck! They ate her goddamn heart! Are you listening to me?" "Okay, Ted. Okay. Just calm down. Now listen, what I want you to do is go on home. I'll check up on this and stop by after I get it all sorted out. But they killed her! Now, Ted. But no more buts, Ted. You go on home, and I'll see you there. Got it? I couldn't believe how nonchalant the sheriff was being. But what could I do? I just have to do what he said. Go back to my cabin and wait for him. Okay, I said, and I heard the line go silent. I stared down at the black device in my hand, knowing if I left this one small spot of land, it would be rendered useless. I'd be cut off from the rest of the world alone. But what could I do? He was the sheriff. Even if he was an overweight pothead, he was the sheriff, and I had no choice but to listen to him, so I drove back to my cabin and I waited. I looked out over the cliff face, but I couldn't see the fire burning anymore. I drank a beer. I tried to go over my data, but I was too shaken up. My hands shook so bad I couldn't even manage to type numbers into the keyboard of my laptop. Suddenly there was a knock at the door. It startled the living shit out of me. Shook me to the very bone. Wishing I had just hightailed it out of there earlier, driven away down that long, winding road. It was the only way in or out, never to come back. I crept up to that door and cautiously pulled the curtain of the window back. Peeking out the window, I saw the sheriff standing at my doorstep with Susie's mother, Kathy, and a little girl. I tentatively pulled the door open. "This is the girl you saw murdered?" The sheriff immediately barked at me. I gazed at the little girl before me. The girl the same age and height as Susie, with similar hair, but definitely not Susie. "No, this isn't her. I said Susie Anderson." The little girl looked up at Susie's mother. "What's he talking about, Mama?" "This is Susie Anderson," the sheriff grumbled. "And this is her mother. Known both of them my whole goddamn life. Now what the hell is going on around here?" No, it's not. This is not Susie. I saw them kill her," I shouted. Someone had to fucking believe me. I gazed up to Susie's mother, who looked at me like I was crazy and clutching her little girl to her. "Mama, Ted is scaring me." "Okay, you two go wait in the car," the sheriff mumbled, waving Susie's mother and the little girl along. He then put one of his big, beefy hands on my shoulder and pushed me into the cabin. "Listen, mister, you're scaring the little girl half to death, and you need to tell me what the fuck is going on." He spoke into my ear, and his breath was hot on my face. "You on drugs? Doing a little meth or staying up all night doing your research?" He gazed suspiciously around the room, the specimen jars full of bugs and mollusks, the beakers of seawater samples and glass slides. "Do I gotta go get a warrant for my old buddy Judge Johnson and come back here to search this place?" "Am I on drugs?" I shouted. "Me! I just saw you smoking a joint at that party." He laughed a hearty laugh and grinned a big shit-eating smile. "Hell, son, that's for my glaucoma. I've had medical marijuana for over 15 years. Was one of the first people in the Cove to get it. Everyone knows that." I was starting to feel dizzy. The room was beginning to slowly rotate. "All right, son. You don't look so good." "But the fire on the beach, did you check the fire?" "Yeah, I went down there. Looks like a bunch of kids was having a party. Left fucking beer cans everywhere, but they're gone now." "You went down? How? How do you think I walked?" "You know about that secret trail?" "Secret trail? Damn, you're a dumb one, ain't you? That fucking trail ain't secret. Everyone knows how that fucking trail works." I staggered back. The sheriff pulled out a chair and pushed me heavily onto it. "I saw it. I saw them kill her and eat her heart." "You didn't see nothing, son. Sometimes the light of the moon reflects off the water, the sound and the rhythm of the ocean. They can play tricks on your mind. Trust me, I've seen many good men go a little crazy out here. Shelter Cove is known to have its share of crazies, and they don't all start off that way." I sunk my face into my hands and shook my head. But I... He put his big mitt of a hand on my back, in a tender way, gave me a pat. "Tell you what, son, you get some rest. Sleep on it. I'll come back tomorrow afternoon and we'll talk again. Even take a little walk down to the beach. I'd like a walk with a scientist guy like you. Maybe you could tell me what some of that weird-looking shit in the tide pool is." How I fell asleep that night, I don't know. It was as if I'd been drugged. I drank half a beer and I create lethargy.
Man, these rocks
stumbled to my bed,
making it
with
very
my eyes
difficult.
heavy. I was asleep before my head hit the pillow. That night, the final dream came to me, and I had the great realization. I was in the ocean, with all the other deep ones, the cool, salty water swooshing in and out of our gills, the light of the moon sending out great shafts of pale light through the deep, murky water. Of course, we were harvesting abalone.
All right,
eating
we'll get
some
back
for
to
our
that
own
in a
strength,
bit.
bringing back armfuls of others.
Let's
for
get
the
back
great one who
to
slept
this
out in the ocean's
room,
depths.
shall we?
The Dark Lord, who was awakening and would soon rise in a fury of black, leathery wings and tentacles. the next day, and who would soon rise in a fury of black leathery wings and tentacles. The next day the sheriff arrived at my house, as he said that he would. He brought with him a box. I opened it to find a large black hooded cloak. I slipped the cloak over my head, pulled up the hood, and together we walked down to the beach to start the fire and await the arrival of the others.
Candle Cove. That's a good one.
If you think about it, there are some things in this world that aren't meant to be scary, but most often they are. I mean, take Candle Cove, for instance. The guy who created the show seemed like he was trying to make an innocent enough children's show. I mean, creepy, but innocent. I have a bit of a history with that damn show. June 24th, 2010. I'm trying to find out more about Candle Cove. I mean, I know it exists because I watched the first, 3 episodes, but got bored after the 5th one. I heard that it was getting a new season, and I remembered the show. I remembered it as nothing but static to come on. I didn't know if they were messing with me or not.
Circle
Candle
my
Cove
way
is
back.
definitely not static.
There,
It's something more than
eventually.
that. Something terrible. June 25th, 2010. After writing the first entry, I decided to dig up some news about Candle Cove, possibly even find some episodes. Well, I was on the internet about, midnight, when I received a text message from someone with a name like this, 011100010111. And the message said, when decoded from the binary to text, meet me. And what did he mean, meet me? Was I supposed to meet whoever that was somewhere? I don't know. June 26, 2010.
Ooh.
I found an episode of Candle Cove. It was from season 1, and it was at least the 5th episode. It's funny because I don't remember ever seeing something like this. The episode I saw depicted it being Janice's birthday, and the pirates and the skin taker and the rest of the characters sang happy birthday, and then the skin taker broke off into this weird song which I assumed to be called 1 Year Closer. When he finished the song, all the puppets kind of stared at the camera, and their eyes glassy, and then then out of nowhere skeletons came out. Yes, you 4chan fans, you can literally say skeletons popped out. Well, the scary thing about it was that the skeletons kept grabbing near Janice's breast area and touching her butt, and June 27th, 2010. I contacted someone I met over the internet who apparently watched Candle Cove when it was on TV, and he told me to come to his house and interview him. And at first I was wary, but then I realized that this was Candle Cove we were going to talk about. When I got there, I noticed that his house was immaculate. But that was mostly because he had nothing but a TV and a bed in his house. It looked like he didn't have any food in his house either. I mean, when I asked him questions, he kept staring off into space. And it took me a few seconds, sometimes even minutes, to get him to come back to Earth and keep talking to me. When I brought up the skin taker, he just screamed and fell over unconscious. I tapped him, but it seemed as if he wouldn't wake up for hours. After that, I mean, this might sound creepy, but I'm doing anything I can to find out about Candle Cove. After that, I went upstairs and searched his room for anything that has absolutely anything to do with that damn show. I found concept art, but it was singed. I could barely even tell what it was. There was also a note that I'll read that, it's from this guy who lived across the street from me, and when I was younger. I'll describe it better in the next entry, but for now, I need some rest. June 30th, 2010. Wow, I slept for nearly 4 days. Jesus. I don't even remember doing that ever. I remember some dreams that I had during the 4-day sleep period thingy. Skin Taker was chasing me down a long, dark hallway as other villains from the show came around the corner. First there was Horace Horrible, then Milo, and then something terrible I thought I'd never see again. He was tall. He was dressed like a normal man, but he was also decaying terribly, and I could literally smell his terrible burning flesh, and he stumbled around the corner. The man was some strange old guy who lived on my street when I was about 10 years old, and he would sometimes go onto my lawn when my parents weren't home and stare through my window. I remember his house burning down about 2 years later when I was home alone. Apparently it was suicide. I don't want to know what made him burn his house down, but I feel maybe I do. I'm going to his house tomorrow to look for clues. I forgot something. Here's the note I found in the man's house. Dear Lucille, I don't know how much longer I can take this. The nightmares are becoming more frequent, more disturbing. Most of them are of him, but all of them have the same picture of that kid who lives across from me, with his eyes gouged out. If only there was a way I could warn him about that damn Candle Cove show before it's too late. Sincerely, Bill. June 31st, 2010. What I saw in that house will most likely not make me sleep, not let me sleep for a couple days, maybe longer. The house was nothing but a patch of dirt now, but I know better. I dug into the dirt, and soon I hit something, and the material scraped against my fingernails as I looked. I took the packed dirt off the top of it. It was a note. It read, Percy was a pirate. He was the greatest one around. Percy was a pirate. He never wore a frown. Until one day Mr. Skintaker came to town and took all the other children down to his workshop, where he would chop and sew skin to his new cape, and always look for new children to write. This is getting disturbing. July 1st, 2010. I'm regretting getting involved in this. Every time I get home from school, I swear I can hear the screaming of those poor children, their skin ripping, their flesh being taken off their bones and stuck onto the skeleton man's cape. I'm ending this now, and thank you, everyone who helped me. I don't know what I'll do after this. Maybe I'll even destroy this notebook, but one thing's for sure, I'll never search for this damn show at all, ever again.
Ooh, grad night at the Haunted Mansion. I love this story, too.
On June 4th, 1983, my high school was one of the many that took us to Disneyland for grad night. If you've ever been to Disneyland on grad night, you know how much fun and how crazy it can be. The park stays open extra late. The skippers who drive in the Jungle Cruise boat let loose and tell dirty jokes, and there's plenty of opportunities for people to sneak booze and weed in. Getting a bunch of amped up high schoolers in Disneyland is one thing, but with a nightlife and party atmosphere behind it, things can get pretty nuts. My two friends and I, Anaheim locals, were particularly excited. We all loved Disneyland, and while we didn't get to visit often, living practically in the park's backyard gave us more opportunities than most. In addition, we hadn't been there since New Fantasyland opened earlier that year, going from sort of a medieval fairground to a storybook village. So I was kind of looking forward to that. Unlike a lot of people who were there, we intended to keep things clean and have a grand old time of it, hit as many rides as possible, and just revel. But the big plan for the night was kind of ambitious and maybe a little reckless. To this day, I can't remember who suggested it first, only that we all thought that it was a great idea. We had already gotten into the park and gone on a number of rides when it was brought up. While we were sitting on a bench in Frontierland eating churros,
It's probably okay.
from where we sat, we could look across the rivers of America to Tom Sawyer Island. And past that, where the river curved to New Orleans Square, poking above the trees, was the cupola of the Haunted Mansion, with its clipper ship weather-worn vane. The sun had just gone down, and the sky was awash with dull orange and purple clouds, most of which seemed to loom behind the cupola. I pointed out how perfect and spooky the whole thing looked, and that got us talking about it. The mansion was a collective favorite. And being dumb kids, we agreed to do a little exploring to effectively spend the night in the Haunted Mansion.
Because that's a great idea.
We laughed about it as we got in line for it, moving past the brick columns and up the walkway towards the mansion, but inside, I was a bit nervous. You have to understand, security was a bit more lax back then, so it was plausible that we would be able to pull this off if we were careful. Plus, grad night always had kids getting into trouble, and the likelihood of us getting banned for good was not as high as it could have been. But I still felt tense. That feeling you get when you're scared about going on a thrill ride for the first time. Excited, but hesitant. The three of us, Mike, Karen, and myself, had all worked out when you first enter the mansion. You're escorted into a room that seemed to stretch and warp before your eyes, which is actually an elevator that takes guests below ground where the hallway connects to the ride building beyond the park's burn. As everyone else crowded out of the room and into the hall of morphing portraits, we lagged behind, which the disembodied voice of the ghost house jokingly warns you not to do, and fell in at the very back of the line. By the time that we piled into our doom buggies, there is no one else behind us, and the black endless procession of clamshell-like cars was empty. We went through the ride as normal, cracking jokes and making banter at all the old familiar scenes, until we reached the exit crypt. We stepped out onto the moving platform and walked towards the escalator ramp that leads from the crypt back to the park outside. If you don't know, the escalator hugs the wall on the right, but on the left is a small crypt scene where a tiny ghostly bride stands on a stone shelf and tells you to hurry back, hurry back. Mike took charge here, deliberately turning backwards as we went up to watch the cast member near the buggies below us. Mike's a big, broad-shouldered guy, a football player through and through, and his bulk hid me and Karen from view as we slowly ascended. At his signal, when the cast member monitoring the exit had his back turned, Karen and I climbed over the rail and dropped down into the crypt scene. where we quickly scurried under the dusty space beneath the escalator. Mike was over a moment later, and we laughed and congratulated each other on a job well done. We must have spent a good hour or so down there, giggling into our hands whenever we heard footsteps and voices overhead of unsuspecting people exiting the ride. Karen even had some snacks that she had brought with her, and we sat down there in the dark and ate and whispered to each other. It was like being in a weird clubhouse, and it felt good that we were sharing this delinquency together. Even as the narration of the Ghost Bride looped over and over again in the background. Hurry back, be sure to bring your death certificate if you decide to join us. Make final arrangements now. We've been dying to have you. Eventually, the novelty of it wore off, and we got quiet, and then listless. Sure, we'd managed this much, but then what? Karen pointed out that it had been eerily silent for a while. Other than the monotone speech of the bride and the other spooky ambient noises, there was no more people coming up the ramp. Mike said that he thought maybe the park had closed, but that made no sense because it was open all night on grad night. Not wanting to get into trouble, but also wondering what was up, I volunteered to clamber back up and take a look. When I did, using some of the crypt scenery for hand and footholds, I saw that there was no one around, not even a cast member down at the unloading platform at the end. When I reported this, Mike and Karen climbed back up as well, and we went back down the unloading station to look around. All the doom buggies coming along the corridor were empty, and there was not a person in sight. It was odd, to say the least, and I felt like something was definitely off to have the place so empty. I was about to suggest turning around and heading back outside when Mike said that he'd always wondered where the doom buggies went after they dropped you off. They rounded a dark corner in the crypt area and vanished from sight. And Mike was curious what was down there. Now, really, I should have said no. That there was no point, and that we could get into some serious trouble if we snooped around back there. It was probably just a utility corridor anyway, since the buggies just looped back around to the loading room anyway, but I was young, and I was stupid, and when presented with a golden opportunity like that, it was hard to pass it up. So we went ahead and jumped into the doom buggy going by, and it slowly rounded the corner and into the darkness. This was uncharted territory for us, and even if it turned out to be boring back there, at the very least we'd have a chance to see it and maybe get another ride out of it. Hardly a day goes by where I regret not having said something. The main thing I remember was how Spartan it was. It wasn't quite pitch black, but it was even gloomier in there than the rest of the ride. There were small lights set into the walls at either side of the track, but they were low to the ground and far between. The walls were painted black and the corridor seemed so narrow that I felt boxed in. It was quiet, too. Other than the hum of the track moving the buggies, I felt tense. And Mike and Karen weren't helping that because they looked tense, too. I think it was dawning on all of us how much trouble we might get in. I think a minute or so had passed like this, us going down the dark, featureless backstage corridor, and the ride suddenly stopped, and I nearly jumped out of my skin as a voice came on from somewhere overhead, and laughed when I realized that I had been startled by the normal breakdown spiel. Playful spooks have interrupted our tour, the recording went. Please remain seated in your doom buggy. We will proceed in just a moment. The teasing was immediate, as we all pointed out to each other how we jumped. We waited for the ride to start again, and every 30 seconds or so, the spiel would play. We have been unappointedly detained by prankish spirits. Kindly remain seated in your doom buggy. We will continue our tour momentarily. This went on for a good long while. 10, maybe 15 minutes, and still, the buggies hadn't moved. No one had come looking for us. We were getting antsy, and the silence between the announcements was becoming unsettling. Then Karen leaned out a bit and looked around. She noticed the door first, just ahead, past the buggy in front of us. Work lights revealed a little alcove and utility door on the right-hand side of the corridor. We were so sick of being in the little buggy by that point, we were willing to try anything. So after a short discussion, we all squeezed out of the buggy, pressed against the wall to go past the next one. Might get trouble here. And stood before the door. I pushed it open, finding it unlocked, and it led to a metal staircase leading down into the darkness. Footlights, like the ones in the corridor, revealing where to go. I was thinking up excuses in my head as we went down the stairs to explain why we were likely stepping into Disney's underground utility corridors, the infamous utilidors said to run like a spiderweb beneath Disneyland, if someone found us. And by this point, I hope someone did. At the bottom of the stairs, another closed door with a sign on it read, "Cast members only." We pushed through that as well, and were legitimately surprised to see that it opened up to what looked like a themed hallway. Disney, even backstage, seemed to be paying attention to style, as the hall sported the purple demon wallpaper and wainscoting of the room above. It was even lit by candle scenes on the walls, the fake flickering bulbs coated with cobwebs and dust. Several detailed wooden doors lined the hall with out-of-place white placards mounted on them. Each was marked with a prop room with a corresponding number. As we made our way up the hall, we tried each door we came to and found them all locked. The first door, prop room 1, shook a bit and wouldn't budge. Same with 2 and 3. Mike chuckled and said he wondered if we would find Walt Disney's frozen head down here. But I could hear a nervous waver in his laugh. Even I was feeling some sense of dread with each door that we tried. Something hard to place but nagging. At door 4, I placed my ear to the edge of it and heard what sounded like rushing water, or faint TV static from the other side. And at 5, I noticed that the faux candles flanking it were flickering more sporadically than the rest. Door 6, to left and nearly another plain utility door that marked the hall's end, was the only one that yielded to us. And I was the only one who turned the cold handle and opened it for the first time. It was difficult for me to describe what I saw in there without shuddering, because even now, my telling makes it sound fairly normal. There it is. As normal as the room hidden under the theme park attraction can possibly be. It wasn't very big. Almost like a large storage shed. Unlike the hall, this one was the bland utility door, and lit by a single fluorescent light in the ceiling, albeit dim one. The walls were lined with metal cabinets, and there was some sort of large, archaic gadget shoved into one corner. Not unlike the old computer banks from the 60s, but what caught my attention right away was the grinning figure standing near the far wall, across from the door. A dummy or animatronic of some sort, lifeless and unmoving, but standing on its base. The discovery was fascinating to all of us, and without thinking, we all edged into the room. And immediately approached the figure. It was clearly meant to be one of the ghosts on the ride. A specter in a top hat with a skull-like face, cartoony, bulging eyes, and a leering smile. One of the teeth was even painted gold. And he stood in a bow-legged stance, one gnarled hand holding a cane and the other a hat box. None of us had ever seen this particular character on the ride before, though Karen said that its face looked a lot like the tall, skinny hitchhiking ghosts from the end of the ride. I was just turning away from the figure to look at the cabinets when there was a combustion roar from the hall outside, like the sound of a passing motorcycle, followed by a loud, bassy boom that made the floor shake. The door to the room swung shut, and the fluorescent light sputtered and went out, leaving us in total darkness. Mike gasped and Karen screamed, and I was just reaching out from them in the dark when I heard a particular whirring sound. Another light came on. This one, a concentrated green light above the hatbox ghost, showing its skeleton smile for a moment before the light faded away. Another faded on, illuminating the hatbox. I could see through the material of the hatbox now, and saw the ghost's head grinning at me from the inside. The pattern repeated itself rhythmically, making it seem like the ghost's head was disappearing from his shoulders and appearing in the hatbox. It wasn't a terribly convincing effect, but in the dark, and with the strange things going on around me, it genuinely scared me. I turned and stumbled through the room, ready to get out of there, feeling around for the door. Now even the light on the ghost shut off, and I heard Karen and Mike feel behind me. A crash and the sound of something solid tapping the concrete floor. I tried pushing the door open, but it wouldn't budge, and somebody slammed into my back in the dark and caused me to hit it hard. I was dazed but unhurt, and another scream from Karen fueled my adrenaline even more. I instead gave the door a tug, and it opened. I was out in the hall without a second thought, and without even looking back, I started running. Sprinting back the way I came, gasping for air. I was never an athletic kid, but panic kept me going. I heard something behind me. Footsteps. Mike and Karen yelling in terror as they followed, and what seemed like rapid knocking and banging on the doors around me. But I refused to look over my shoulder, up the stairs, and back into the doom buggy corridor. In what felt like a matter of seconds,
This is one of my
the
favorite
doom buggies were moving now, endlessly traveling through the shadows. I knew it was risky
one of my
to jump
favorite
into one from the narrow
horror
corridor, and for a moment I
songs
stopped, trying to figure out what to do.
by
I
Miyu.
finally looked back down the stairway I had come from. I thought Mike and Karen had been right behind me, but they were gone. I called their names. My voice echoed down the stairs. Karen! But there was no reply. Not until I heard something tapping the metal stairs, coming up towards the door, and I saw an unfamiliar, vague shadow in the wall. I flung the door closed and dove into the nearest buggy, which carried me down the corridor, a little ways before finally emerging into the limbo-like loading room. All the effects were still running here, including the eerie music and sounds. But there was still no one else around. I yelled for help, but no one appeared. As soon as I could jump out of the doom buggy and ran back up the line into the hall of morphing portraits, the door to the elevator, the stretching hallway, but I remembered that this area had more immediate chicken exits, meant for those too scared to ride the ride and wanted to head back up to the park. The door was marked with an obvious exit sign and sitting behind the two shuttered windows that made it look like it led outside to a stormy night. Without hesitation, I pushed through it. Beyond was another corridor. On either side of me, flashing lights pointing at the windows to simulate lighting, flickering with each thunderclap that boomed through the hall, disorienting me even further. Following the hall as the floor inclined gently up, my throat tight and a stitch in my side. And then my throat closed altogether as I turned a corner and almost ran into the hatbox ghost. I was standing smack dab in the middle of the hall between me and the door that led outside. I scrambled backwards instinctively, but the figure didn't move. It was a static prop, grinning, its cadaver grin backlit by a ceiling light further down the hall. The light almost broke the illusion of the hat box, and I could see vaguely the shape of the disembodied head through the scrim. I was convinced, thoroughly convinced at that moment, that that thing was going to suddenly jerk to life and come after me, but it didn't. I had no idea how it had gotten there from down in the sub-level, or how it had so quickly, maybe the one I'd seen below wasn't the only figure. Maybe Mike and Karen were pulling a fast one on me and had dragged the figure up with them. I was frozen, trying to figure out where to go next. Not wanting to go anywhere near that ghost, but not wanting to backtrack either. Because I still felt like there was something sinister behind me. Karen. Nervously, I croaked out the names of my lost friends. Mike. There was no reply. Noises from the ride seemed to come floating down the hall, muted but ever present. Then I heard the groan. It could have been a human groan or something mechanical, but I definitely heard it. It didn't sound like any of the standard audio, and it came from a point somewhere near or past the hack box ghost. Maybe even from further down the corridor past the exit. As if this were a trigger, I realized that either my eyes had adjusted to the dark or the lighting had somehow changed, because I looked again in the hat box and saw the thing inside through the scrim. There was still a head in there. But I know it wasn't the ghost's head. It wasn't even a cartoon caricature of a head. It wasn't Mike or Karen. It's at this point the details elude me. I know that what I saw shook me to my very core, and that's part of the reason it's taken me so long to recount this. I remember seeing the thing in the box, seeing that it was indeed a human head, a man's face, a face I didn't recognize. It seemingly looking back out at me with shock, pleading eyes. But after that, there's a blur of sheer terror and snatches of frightening images, gnarled hands and tombstones, pneumatic hissing and stretching rooms going in reverse, shrinking and shrinking too fast, the ceiling rushing towards me, the corpses hanging
not
in the rafters,
bad.
descending on me. I try not to dwell on them too much, because now I'm no longer sure which really happened and which were the results of the nightmares that I had been having for years afterward. The next thing I can remember clearly after this is being on my hands and knees just outside the fence of the haunted mansion, vomiting onto the pavement, while around me crowds of people stood. Most of them weren't paying me any mind. There were lots of whispered talks, and a few were crying. There were red and blue lights, police cars parked nearby, but I couldn't tell why. I just sat there gulping and sobbing until a cast member finally noticed me and led me to the first aid station. Karen was there when I arrived. She jumped up and down and hugged me lightly when she saw me. I don't think either of us made much sense. We were both at our wits' end, but it was such a relief to see her after all that. Any questions I had fell by the wayside. I'll never forget how haunted she looked, wide-eyed and pale, barely able to form a sentence without tearing up.
What?
Mike never turned up. That fateful night has never left me. And in the years since then, I've slowly begun to piece together the details, trying to vainly make sense of what happened. It became sort of a private obsession, something to do in the background as I moved on with my life. First, It didn't take long for Karen and I to learn why the police cars were there. And they weren't for us. According to the reports that we heard later, an 18-year-old guy from New Mexico had died while we were in the haunted mansion. He and a friend had snuck into the backstage area on Tom Sawyer Island and stole a rubber emergency boat to go for a joyride around the rivers of America. Apparently, this guy was pretty drunk. It wasn't long before he hit a rock, throwing he and his friend from his boat. His friend went for help, but he drowned before they could find him. His body was discovered an hour later. I wonder now if that's why there was no one around when we crept backstage. I managed to track down a few cast members who were working that night. And though
Fucking
most
love
of them
that dog
claimed
more than
that they were
anything.
told by management not to cause alarm
Aww.
and keep to their posts, several admitted that they had gone to check out that
I
grim
love
spectacle,
Ollie from TikTok.
especially those CMs that
If you
were
don't know Ollie
on
from
the
TikTok, look
attractions
up
near the river.
Good Boy Ollie
The
on
Haunted
TikTok.
Mansion.
It is he's like the best dog on the
Was
internet.
the timing such that anyone
and,
turned
like,
a blind eye while we
I've
stumbled into
never loved a
something?
dog on the internet like I do with
Yeah.
Ollie. Like he's just
Mike's disappearance was
bestest
something
boy.
me and Karen both
bestest boy.
felt deeply,
Okay,
and we tried for
let's
years to
do
get
things a little
something
bit
from anyone about it.
backwards with
His
this
parents
one.
never heard from him, and a missing persons report was filed eventually. We didn't tell the truth. Who would believe us? We at least tried to steer the investigation towards the haunted mansion, saying that was where we last saw him. But it never went that far. Disney never got implicated in the incident, of course, though the park was his last known whereabout. Karen and I eventually drifted, probably because we blamed each other for what happened. She never expressed to me what she experienced after we separated, either because she wanted me to feel guilty for leaving them behind. Karen, you have no idea. Or that she, like me, can only recall so much. We were both too shaken to recount to each other. But time and distance make things easier. With the advent of the internet, there was suddenly a wealth of new information. I've since begun to piece together clues. Almost immediately, I found our Hatbox Ghost. Plugging that into any search engine will turn up multitudes of pictures of that bow-legged, grinning figure that's been floating through my mind's eye in the dark. It was apparently part of the attraction when it first opened in 1969, and much of the promotional material for the ride at the time featured this character and his ubiquitous hat box. He originally stood in the attic scene, right across from the ghostly bride with the beating heart. But this was quietly removed from the ride after only a week. Apparently, the effects of his disappearing head never worked properly, or so the account goes. In recent years, the Hatbox Ghost has gained a fan base, groups of haunted mansion fans that want to see him restored to the ride. It's wishful thinking, I'm sure, because that figure had to have been stored downstairs for a reason.
Yeah.
It took longer to find out about the backstage area where the doom buggies go. That empty corridor not originally meant to be seen by guests. Disabled guests, however, travel that route all the time. Wheelchair access to the ride is done through that limbo-like loading room. And guests travel back around to this room to reclaim their wheelchairs and head back out. I've posted about it and posted queries for details about that area, but no one has given me a description that sounds anything like what I went through. It's been described as short, bland, and with some sort of catwalk going over the track, but no mysterious alcove or obvious doorway. It takes less than 30 seconds for the doom buggies to go through. And then you're back in the loading room. I suspect Disney might have changed that area since the 80s. But why? Most recently, though, I've come across an odd factoid that seems more like a morbid curiosity than anything else. Unless one's been through what I have. It's not about the Haunted Mansion, however, but it's nearby e-ticket neighbor. Pirates of the Caribbean. According to the story, and this has been published in various Disney-owned books, so it's no vague rumor, the Imagineers who built that ride felt that the faux skeletons of the time weren't convincing enough for the underground grotto scenes, so they borrowed real human remains from the UCLA Medical Center, dressed them up as pirates, and put them in the caves. Let that sink in for a moment. Millions of people went by on boats and had no idea they were looking at real skeletons, all propped up in pirate garb. Eventually, a later team of Imagineers would replace these with more convincing facsimiles. And supposedly, the bones were returned to their countries of origin and given proper burials. But who's to say they were? What if something was left behind in that basement when the bones were taken? And what if pirates weren't the only ride that they did this? The show building of the Haunted Mansion was built along with the rest of New Orleans Square in 1963, but it took another 6 years for the actual attraction to open. Why the delay? It couldn't have just been the gridlock from the 1964 World's Fair and Walt Disney's death in 1966, could it? All of this speculation, a string of understanding that raises more questions for me than it does answer. I want to get the truth of what happened that night, but everything I've found doesn't add up to a concrete explanation. Perhaps there isn't one, though I desperately want there to be one. And I can't go back. I won't. Not after the things that I saw and felt. I haven't set foot in Disneyland since that night. Maybe, though. Maybe it's time I tried again.
I don't know.
Karen,
Doesn't sound like a good
you're
idea.
out there and you're hearing this. I'm sorry about everything. I'm trying to make it right, trying to put some meaning to this. Contact me if you can. I need to know what happened to you and Mike. Maybe you have the key to this mystery in your memories. I can't do it alone, but together we might get to the bottom of this. For everyone else, let this stand as a testament. Some things are backstage for a reason. And a company like Disney must have a multitude of skeletons in its closet. Think twice before you pull some stupid stunt like I did, because it might not be security that finds you.
Oh, great. Shit. My brand new shoes. Oh, god damn it. Fuck. I'm home. Tootsie? Tootsie? There you are. Hey, girl. Did you pee in the house? Was that a yes or a no? Oh, Tootsie.
The
You've
line.
been through this 100 times. Alcohol isn't for dogs. Plus, you're underage. Come on, let's see what's on TV.
New word from the nation's top scientists on the zombie virus that appeared 2 weeks ago.
In critical condition after a
Recorded in front of a lot.
Hello, Mr. Carpenter. You have 3 new messages. Message 1.
Hello, my name's Daniel Sanders.
I'm not dealing with work on a Friday night.
I've been trying to put my house on the market, and I was told that you were the man.
Message saved. Message 2.
I'm looking for Mr. Carpenter. I came across one of your business cards and I'd like to talk to you.
More work.
Message saved. Message 3.
Hey, buddy, it's Steven from work. Hey, man, me and the guys were talking about this canoeing trip we have coming up. It's gonna be all guys, no women. They're thinking about getting some coke, maybe some heroin, some prostitutes.
What the? Really?
Don't leave me hanging. Call me back.
I'm happy being alone.
What's up?
Message deleted. You have no more new...
Oh, come on. It's 1 a.m. Nope, I'm not picking up the phone. No, fuck off. It's Friday night. Give it a rest. They'll call back. Fine. Hello?
Justin, is this Justin?
Yeah, do you know what time?
Listen, man, you gotta help me. These mental motherfuckers are after me, man.
Whoa.
I don't even know where I am. We're all out here, bro.
Whoa, dude, just stop. Hold on a second. Whoa, hold on a minute. Hold on. Let me turn the TV down. Let me turn the TV down.
You gotta do something, man.
Is this for fucking real? How do I do something? I don't even know where you are.
Please.
I don't know what you want me to do. How the fuck did you get my number? What the fuck's going on, man? This better not be a fucking prank. I'm telling you that now.
It's fucking insane, man. I'm so scared. Help me.
I don't even know who the fuck you are, okay?
I don't know what to do.
Okay. Calm down. Just let me think. How'd you get my number? Because this doesn't make any sense unless I know how you got my number. I have to keep myself safe. You understand? So, if you can tell me how you got my number and it makes sense to me, then I can...
From the card, man. Your business card was in the phone booth. You sell real estate, right?
Oh, fuck, yes. From the cards.
You're Justin Carpenter.
Yeah. I put my business cards in the phone booth to try to get more business.
Look, Justin, I'm Andrew. I don't have much time. 911 keeps putting me on hold, and I'm all out of money, and they're gonna fucking...
What? 911 is putting you on hold.
Look, I really want to help, but this is really fucked up.
I know. What do I do?
Okay, Andrew, just breathe. Just take a look around you and tell me what you see.
I don't know. There's a fucking church over there, some woods, and a payphone. It's dark. I don't see anything else. Not even a house. I'm running out of time, man. You gotta help.
Okay. Church, woods, payphone. The phone booth. Andrew, I know where you are. You're on the road that leads to my house.
I think they're coming. I'll buy a fucking house. Just get me out of this shit, man.
Fuck.
I'll buy a house.
Right, okay. You need to run right now.
Which way?
Run past the church, up the hill, and... Just run, Andrew. Andrew! Hello? Fuck! I'm supposed to be staying out of trouble. This reeks of trouble. I don't need any more trouble. I need a drink. Just one drink. It's not gonna hurt anything. Fuck. I don't need this right now. This is what I get for self-advertising in fucking public phone booths. Might as well just take an ad out in the yellow pages under murder. Who even uses phone booths and phone books anymore? Fuck. I'm so stupid. Damn it, Toodle, shut up. All right. I have to calm down and breathe. Remember the Wim Hof technique? Okay, I need to think. Maybe he finds help before he gets to me. Yeah, maybe he finds help before he gets here. No, the church.
Wait, what the hell is that?
This is the only house for at least 4 miles. Fuck. Think. What do I do? I'll call for help. Yeah. Okay, where's the phone? All right. 911 is just simply 911. Okay. Everything's gonna be fine. Come on. Just pick up the phone.
You're through to Marcus with a C. 911, what's your emergency?
Oh, yes, thank God. I've got a huge nightmare situation going on right now. And
Sir, please calm down.
What?
You're coming across a little abrasive, don't you think?
What? No, well, maybe. I'm just really...
Sir, I'm not gonna ask you again to calm down.
I am calm. This is urgent and you're...
Sir, do not swear or shout at me again or I will terminate the call.
What? I never swore at you. And I'm only talking like this because I don't know what to do.
And you're still shouting.
What?
Yep.
No. This is a whisper with a shouty voice. And I'm only whisper shouting because I'm scared and this is urgent.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
Why didn't you say?
I tried to, but you...
What can I do you for?
Well, Marcus, as I tried to tell you already, I have an emergency.
Uh-huh. And your name? Number? Number's optional.
Okay. Justin Carpenter and...
G-U-S-T-E-N. Justin, lovely name.
Yeah, thanks, but that's not how you spell it, and
Sir, it doesn't matter. We haven't got all day.
I know!
Sir! Language!
What did I say?
Sir, why don't you just relax and tell me what your emergency is?
Yeah, okay. I can do that. So, I came home from work, turned on the TV, and the phone...
I'm sorry, Gustin. I'll have to place you on hold.
No! Don't put me on hold, Marcus! And my name's not... Gustin.
Hello, Gustin. It's Marcus with the C here again.
It's just...
You called about an emergency?
Yes, of course I did. You put me on hold.
Fantastic. You're doing great. You're safe.
What do you mean I'm safe? You don't even know what's wrong.
Let me stop you right there. We've got a high school kid over on Melrose Avenue who's just beat his mom to death with a baseball bat, and now he's holding his girlfriend Hannah hostage. But you're fine. Don't worry.
What?
I'm just gonna place you on hold real quick.
Marcus, no! You put me on hold again? Damn you! Fuck! What am I gonna do if Andrew shows up here while I'm on hold? And what if he's been followed? I'm not prepared for this. I don't even know who this guy is. I don't know what to do. What do I say when he gets here? Do I open the door? Fuck, I don't know. Yeah, I am going out of my mind. But I need to calm down. I can handle this. I just need to...
Okay, Gustin, sorry about keeping you waiting, but if you'd like to go ahead...
Yeah, actually, Marcus, could you just put me back on hold? I think the music was actually helping me think.
Sure!
What is this?
Shit! Fuck! Oh, fuck. Shh. No, come. Here, you. Go in there. Lay down. Shh.
Okay, I think we fixed that. Now we can get back to the NavMesh.
Hello? Jesus! Shit!
Somebody, please!
Jesus.
I need help!
Christ, Andrew. Shit. Oh, fuck. Hello?
Justin!
Yeah.
Oh, thank fucking God, man.
Oh.
Thank you.
I just want to...
Open the door, man. Come on.
Fuck.
Please.
Hey, look.
Please, man.
Look, Andrew.
I'm bleeding out.
Andrew.
I can't feel my fucking leg.
Oh, God, man. I don't know if I'm comfortable letting a stranger just walk into my house. I mean...
What do you mean, stranger? He just spoke to you on the phone. You told me to come here.
No, I didn't really. I meant...
Yes, you did. You practically gave me directions.
Shit.
You've got to let me in, man.
I don't know you. You called me from a payphone 10 minutes ago.
What? Why would you tell me to come to your house if you weren't gonna fucking help me, man?
What is this?
Just open the door.
I can't do that.
Why the fuck not?
Because what if you're just playing the victim to get me to open the door and then you're gonna come in and stab me or something?
No, I'm a real life victim. If you don't help me, I'm gonna fucking bleed to death. I'm fucking scared.
I'm fucking scared too. Shit.
I am telling you the truth.
Well, how do I know that? Put yourself in my shoes. What would you do if someone came to your house and started saying all the stuff you're saying to me? It's fucking crazy, man. What am I supposed to believe? What am I supposed to do? I don't know who to call. I've tried calling. Jesus. Okay, look, man. Just take it easy. We're both just scared here, and And I don't know, I think our emotions are getting the better of us. Trust me, Andrew, we'll figure this out. I'm just not so sure opening the door is the safest option right now, you know? Hey, you still there? Andrew? Andrew, what's going on out there? Andrew! Andrew! Oh, fuck. Andrew! Fuck. Are you... Is this really... Oh, my God.
You gotta help me.
You're bleeding everywhere. Andrew?
Yeah?
We gotta get you up off the ground and into the house. Okay?
Oh, man.
I'm gonna lift you up. Ready? Come on. Hold on to me.
No. It hurts too much.
Look, I know it hurts, but you can't lay out here bleeding all over the porch. We've got to get you inside before anybody sees you. Okay, here we go.
Okay.
1, 2, 3. Okay, I got you. I got you. Just one foot in front of the other.
It hurts, man.
Yeah, I know, but we've got to get you inside. Come on. Okay. Good. Nearly there. We're inside. Just hang on a minute.
What? Why are we stopping?
I want to lock the door.
Is that really fucking necessary?
Yeah.
Of course it's fucking necessary. You've got God knows what type of fucking maniac hillbilly motherfuckers after you. Almost there.
It hurt.
Just a few more steps, Andrew. Come on.
I'm trying, man.
This is kind of difficult, actually.
I need to set you down. You're too fucking heavy. Come on.
Easy.
Come on. Let go of me. There you go.
Fuck. Easy, man.
Oh, get over it.
Don't even be so rough. I'm already fucked.
Hold on. You stay right there. I'll be right back. I think you're fine.
I'm gonna pass out.
You've got a broken leg, but I don't think it's gonna kill you. You're safe. For the time being.
Yes, man. I can't see.
It's just because of the pain, man.
I think I'm gonna pass out.
Just go to sleep if you need to. I'll be right back.
I'm gonna pass out.
Probably not a good idea.
I said wake up. Here's to Andrew.
What the fuck, man?
Here's to Andy. Dress him up and call him Mandy.
Why am I chained to a fucking table, man? You fucking psycho!
Walking big and standing tall.
Fucking funny, man!
Why was Andrew Liner born at all?
What? How do you know my fucking last name?
I said, why were you even born at all? Why? Do you know that song, Andy? Huh? Do you? University of Waterloo. Sigma Chi. Come on.
I don't fucking know.
You're no fucking use to anyone. No fucking use at all.
What are you doing? What are you doing? No.
Drink, motherfucker.
Please.
Drink. Drink it all, bitch.
Man, what am I listening to? I've never heard this before.
What the fuck?
Andrew the Line Liner.
Who are you?
Welcome to the Alpha and Omega basement. My very own frat house.
Who are you?
Fate has chosen you.
What?
Isn't that fucking great?
No.
It's fucking beautiful.
No, this is not fucking cool, man.
Oh, come on. Be excited.
Please.
You're a pledge.
Help!
Shut the fuck up. No one can hear you. This house is the only house for miles. And you're in my fucking basement. Who would have known that you would have come to my house. Andrew the Liner came to my fucking door, wrapped up like a Christmas present. Ding dong.
Please.
Please.
Please, let me go.
You're pathetic.
I don't want to die, man. I'm a good person.
Do you think I believe that?
I don't deserve this.
As convincing as you sound, whining like a fucking mutt.
I have a family. Man. Come on.
I'm doing your family a favor.
I won't tell anyone. I swear.
Oh. You know, Andrew, I was trying to change. I didn't want to be like this anymore.
You saved my life tonight, man.
But then you magically landed at my house.
Please.
And I can't help myself.
Do not kill me.
But this is destiny. It's you and me in my basement. This is meant to be. You have to pay for the bad things you've done.
I don't know what I did wrong.
It's fucking mad.
How do you know who I am?
Woo, that's a good question.
You're with those fucking rednecks, aren't you?
You think I'm with those hillbilly hicks that kidnapped you? Are you serious? Do I look like some podunk country motherfucker with an asshole fetish?
Ew.
God, how fucking insulting. I've got a bit more class than that. I have a method and a fucking kill room. And way beyond that, I've got a motive. So, brother, say it with me.
Say what?
Sigma Chi. Sigma Chi. Sigma Chi. Sigma Chi. What's wrong? Don't you fucking remember? Look at me! Either you don't remember, or you are ashamed. Well, I didn't forget. The second I opened the door, I knew exactly who you were.
What?
Oh, I knew that 10-karat gold college ring when I saw it.
What the fuck are you talking about?
The blue Tiana star.
You're fucking nuts, man.
Sigma Chi fraternity crest. It must have cost you a fortune.
What?
Now, it's gonna cost you your finger.
What? No! 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 My fucking finger! No! No!
Give me your fucking ring.
Cut my finger off, you fucking...
Now I'm taking the ring, and you can have your finger back.
Get the fuck away from me, man!
Now open wide and swallow your pride.
Oh, man!
Open your fucking mouth! Come on. Open up. Now swallow it. Swallow the fucking finger. Yeah, there you go. Eat, motherfucker! Eat, motherfucker! Eat, motherfucker! Eat!
You, man! Why are you doing this to me?
Aren't we having so much fun?
What the fuck is this shit?
Why?
Wow.
You fucking piece of shit!
15 years ago, Waterloo University, Sigma Chi.
I don't fucking know, man.
I was a fucking freshman.
I don't know what you're fucking talking about, man.
You were nothing more than a senior fucking psycho.
Just let me fucking go.
I was your bitch for a semester. A whole fucking semester.
Please, man. Just take me to a fucking hospital.
Nope.
No. It's not too late. You don't have to do this, man. Please.
Oh, don't play that fucking card. Don't be the innocent victim.
Please don't fucking do this.
Oh, shut up. Andrew the Liner. They used to call you the Line. Not because of your name, but because you did some fucked up shit when you were fucked up.
I'm fucking begging you, man. Please.
Look here. Look. Remember when you branded me with your initials?
I fucking didn't.
Oh, yes, you did. Yes, you fucking did.
No.
This is not a homemade tattoo of the word all. It's your initials. A-L-L. Andrew the Liner. It's you. You did this to me.
I didn't.
And that wasn't the half of it, was it? No. You did more.
You got it all wrong.
Remember when you shoved the funnel into my mouth and made me drink your fucking piss? Do you remember that?
Wow, that's fucked up.
Well, how did mine taste? Like revenge?
Come on, man. I was fucking young and stupid. I was fucked up. I was just...
Aha! Ding, ding, ding. We have a winner. He fucking admits it.
You got your fucking revenge, man. Come on.
Oh, no. Look at me. It's not over. That's not it. Wait, hold on a minute. Do you remember what you used to say to me when you would get drunk and fucked up?
No.
You used to say, I want to see what your insides look like. You used to take me upstairs into your room, feed me some fucking pills that would render me motionless. And while I lay there in your bed,
I'm not like that anymore.
unable to move,
I have a fucking wife and kids, man.
you'd climb on top of me and force yourself on me against my will.
You never said no.
I couldn't say no. You fucking drugged me. You used to call me faggot.
Please.
While you donkey punched me in the back of the fucking head.
Please, man, don't do this.
You left me with a fucking concussion.
Okay, I'm fucking sorry.
Oh.
Is that what you want to fucking hear?
Yeah. And it takes a real big man to say sorry when he's being tortured. I can't kill you yet. But that feels so fucking good. You know, I think you fucked something up in my head. I never killed
I'll
anyone
say.
until you did what you did to me. And until you showed up here tonight, I was clean. Do you understand? I rehabilitated myself. I haven't killed anyone in months. I have a new job. I have a new life. I started over. But it's you. I cannot resist. I feel like fucking Frankenstein. It's so ironic. It's like Adam killing God. Because I'm a monster created by an even bigger monster. You. But all of this ends tonight. I want to be normal. I want to cut your lips off. I want to pry your jaw open and hammer your teeth further into your skull.
Oh, wow.
But hey, look on the bright side. After this, we're even. And you know what the real sickening part of it all is? I still didn't make it past the pledges. They still didn't let me into Sigma Chi. Imagine, after all that fucked up shit. Anyway, it was nice to see you again. It's exactly what I needed to set my life back on track for good. We'll call this a momentary relapse. Then I can move on with my life at the end of yours.
What the fuck is that?
What, this?
What is this? No way.
It's loud. So, I can't hear you anymore. Now, brother. It's the end of the line. Get it? I've been saving that all night. It's funny, right? I don't know, I've been thinking about getting into some comedy after I kill you. Hey, I might not be that funny, but you never know till you try, right? Hold still. I think I hit your funny bone. You're down one leg. Remember when you used to put stuff inside me? I always wondered what it would be like to put something inside of you. Let's try this. I want to see what your insides look like. Heads up, Andrew.
God damn.
Jealousy is such a strange enemy. I know it's all in my head, but I can see it's standing in doorways down the street alone. Well, I've been so intoxicated.
That was quite the story.
I can't leave and I can't breathe. The words and throw your arms around the girl. We'll be fine, it's in our hands. But your eyes are filling up, and still you just can't get enough. We'll be fine, it's in our hands.
Okay.
Jealousy is just another part of you and me. It's all in our heads. We are coming, we are coming, we are coming for you.
Oh, I think that's silly.
I'm posting this tonight in hopes that it will clear up the misunderstandings surrounding the disappearance of Deborah Lindsay Kane. At the risk of my personal ridicule.
Okay.
Sticks and stones and all that.
All right, folks, I actually have to go for now. I don't think I'll be back on tonight, but we did get a lot of NavMeshing done, which I'm really happy about. We got a majority of the level done. Like, we got the whole entryway, we got the first room, the second room, like the mini room, and a good portion of like the ledge of like the 3rd/4th room. So just reload the cell real quick. That should bring everybody back, yeah. Okay. But yeah, we got a lot of that NavMesh done. I might work on it a little bit on my own time, because NavMeshing, while fun, well, I don't know. I do kind of actually enjoy it. There's some weird satisfaction with it, but it also isn't a whole lot to look at. So I will probably do a bit of it on my own time too. But we're making good progress, and I'm really happy with it. So, anyways, I gotta go. I have something to do, and I'll be back probably on Wednesday. Tomorrow is my day off streaming, but we should be back Wednesday, finishing up NavMeshing and this, hopefully the rest of this beginning area here, and hopefully by the end of the week, by the weekend, we'll be all done. All done, hopefully. So, oh, I just got that. But anyways, I hope y'all have a great night, and I'll see y'all later.